चार्ज है स्ट्रीम की चैट लगा के देख देखो मैंने क्या सोचा ये है ना स्ट्रीम पर पड़ा है ये डाल देंगे हाँ हाँ नहीं नहीं है ना अभी मतलब मेरी कान पड़ गई चालू होगा ब्रो इट्स वो मेरा वाईफाई कनेक्ट कर दीजिए हाँ वही क्या यार ये मैंने बस क्या बस भाई भाई और नेटवर्क नहीं दिखाया क्या कनेक्टेड है चालू होने वाला है हो जा मेरे भाई इधर क्या बस रैंकिंग्स क्या इधर बस रैंकिंग्स दिखेगा हाँ अरे वो अभी जो पेज एक्चुअल में यूज़ करता हूँ वो पेज डाउन है पता नहीं क्यों तो देखते जब चालू हुआ फिर वो पेज हाँ भाई मेरे पास हाँ नहीं अभी नो ऑडियो क्या नो ऑडियो आ रहा होगा मेरे भाई क्या बात कर रहा है चले साले पुष्पक हरामी सुधर जा भाई सुधर जा जोर से बोलो अभी सही है यही है ना वॉल्यूम अभी आ रहा है पुष्पक भाई सही है चालू करो रेस कर रहा होगा भाई मैं रेस देख रहा हूँ सिर्फ चालू हो चलो ये पेज लगा देते हैं अब टेलीमेट्री ट्रैक मैप टाइमिंग स्क्रीन प्रॉपर्टीज भाई लैग क्यों हो रहा है ये इसको इधर रखते हैं लैग नहीं होगा नेटवर्क का सीन है तेरे पास ओटीपी तेरे पास ही आएगा हाँ हाँ मेरा ही नंबर है डालू क्या किया मैंने बंद कर डालू शेयर नहीं है ना शेयर नहीं शेयर नहीं स्क्रीन शेयर नहीं है सब अलग सेटअप है पुष्पक भाई आई थॉट यू आर रेसिंग नो ब्रो आई एम वाचिंग अ रेस
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Signs and Liam Lawson, they're only a few tenths off us when it comes to race pace. They're not exactly going to fall away quickly.
Max Verstappen's dad, Jos, former Grand Prix driver, watching on. This is Max's first lap on the hard tyre, and there's a little bit of an unknown for these drivers on the hard tyre. They've only got 2 sets for the weekend. They've saved it for the Grand Prix. And Max's practice start, just looking out of the commentary box window, was not good. That was his first launch on the hard tyre. Now, the engineers would have had a chance to look at that start, look at the data, give him a bit of feedback on what he has to do. But it will be something to think about here. Both McLarens, as we said, on the medium tyres. And I'm interested to see how their start goes, because you've got Tsunoda and Russell in front of them on the hard tyres. So can they capitalize track temperature down at 26 degrees, 10 degrees colder than we had last year?
Yeah, the 4th longest circuit on the calendar. This, the 8th Azerbaijan Grand Prix, the 9th race held in Azerbaijan. And you can see the tension rising from the pit lane. It is a 90-meter run from the pole position mark where Max Verstappen sits with his car slightly pointed towards Carlos Sainz all the way to the turn 1 braking zone. The corners are going to be crucial.
Yes, as you say, one of the shortest runs, but you've still got to sight the braking point. You've got to pick that moment where you get on the brake pedal and get the car stopped in time. We've seen so many cars heading up the runoff area or into the barrier at turn 1. So picking that braking point, absolutely critical.
Strap in, everybody. 51 laps about to come your way. We've said it so many times already. Expect the unexpected, but Baku always delivers. We wait for the back row to form up. It's Ocon and Albon. The green flag flies. On pole position is Max Verstappen. Alongside him is Carlos Sainz. It's eyes to the lights, and it will be foot to the floor as we go racing in Azerbaijan. And it's a good start from Max Verstappen, who chops across Sainz and leads out of turn 1. The top 3 as they were side by side heading through. Lando Norris trying to make gains on Yuki Tsunoda's Red Bull further back in the pack.
Piastri's had a disaster. Oscar Piastri's last. The World Championship leader is dead last as we come through the first couple of corners.
Disaster for Oscar Piastri, who will try and make gains while the pack is still close together, but it was superb from Max Verstappen as George Russell edges out down the inside of Tsunoda, all cleanly through the first part of the lap. But we need to see again what happened to Oscar Piastri, who was absolutely plummeted. An uncharacteristic mistake from him yesterday in qualifying. The man who comes into this championship leading it by 31 points. Now, with all the work to do, as one of the Saubers has to cut across the chicane, it's Gabriel Bortoletto who rejoins, and now Piastri's in the wall on the day. McLaren could clinch the constructors. He's crashed at turn 5 and 6. What is going on lap 1 in Baku? The championship leader is out before we've even completed the first racing lap.
They had to rebuild the chassis well, they had to change the chassis, I should say, after his qualifying incident yesterday. That was his first start, his first lap in anger in that car, and it's ended in the barrier even before we got halfway around the lap. The safety car, unsurprisingly, has been called. What a nightmare for Oscar Piastri. What an opportunity for Lando Norris. But let's first have a look. So we haven't seen the start yet, but Piastri was down at the back. He had the Haas in front of him. Here he is, going around the outside. He's just locked up. He's just locked up and gone straight.
Oscar, are you okay?
Yeah. Oscar Piastri, good to see he's okay. He ends a 34 race scoring streak and a 44 consecutive race finishes. Gone for Oscar Piastri. The mistake yesterday in qualifying, finding the wall, saw him with a bit to do in the race today, still inside that top 10, but now out of this race. And for the McLaren to seal this Constructors' title, that goes. And for Oscar Piastri as well to try and keep his advantage in the championship. All eyes on Lando Norris. Bernie, what an opportunity this presents.
What an opportunity indeed. I was just trying to have a little look there, Harry, as to what happened to Oscar Piastri. I'm doing it off GPS in terms of when they move at the start, which positions he lost, what line he took. But it looks to me like he actually jumped at the start a little bit, then tried to recover that, and in recovering that, he lost all those positions. So that's, I think, what happened to Piastri. As the pit lane gets busy, with people stopping under this safety car to get another set of tyres
Action in the pit lane, Karun, and we thought we'd see this with an early safety car. Albon and Ocon from the back, both coming in to try and get a mitigated pit stop from the usual green flag time of about 19 to 20 seconds. It's reduced to nearly 10 seconds, so you gain all that lap time, and they've switched onto the mediums.
Well, I'd like to go back to Bernie, actually, on that, because Esteban Ocon started on the hard tyre, Bernie, and then went to the medium. You know, normally with the drivers who start on the hard tyre, you expect them to go long. Alex Albon's gone from a medium to another medium, I think. But are you surprised with Ocon coming in?
The only thing that I could think that Ocon might do is stop again this next lap, Corinne, and get that hard back on again. So we cycled through the medium, got rid of that. We think the team strongly prefer the hard tyres in these conditions in this race. So maybe, let's stand by, I'll keep an eye out down here, I'm sure Ted will as well, to see if Ocon comes in again to put a different hard tyre on.
And Haas were one of the few teams to run the hard tyre, Harry. Remember in FP3, Ollie Behrman was setting up some really, really fast times, fast sectors on the hard tyre. So they're the only team that have some information, and maybe they now think you can do 49 laps with it.
Here we go then. Oscar Piastri jumped the starts, and
then
that's
stopped.
what bogged him down.
Well, he jumped, then stopped, and then got going after everybody else. So, yeah, complete nightmare for him. I mean, everyone else, I have to say, very, very clean start. We didn't see any front wing damage, any, people getting squeezed up against the wall. People really being respectful of giving each other space. So, yeah, that's 3 errors from a driver we're not used to seeing errors. One in qualifying, then the start, then the crash at turn 6. There's a different Oscar Piastri's turned up today.
With 7 Grand Prix to go after the completion of this one, is this the championship heat starting to show on Oscar Piastri here? Coming into this weekend with a 31-point advantage, will leave with absolutely 0 points. Oh, we just miss it in the bottom of the shot there, but we'll see on board. Here we go then. Jump the start, then hits in the anti-stall. Bernie called it. And that is all you need to do to lose all the positions. He would have been given a penalty anyway had he have stayed in the race. But then we'll see from the shot of Fernando Alonso.
Free stop everyone on used tires, pitting.
That's interesting because Alonso moved as a reaction, I think, to Piastri. I'd like to see that again in slow motion to see whether Fernando moved before the lights went out. Because he did the opposite to Piastri, didn't he? He didn't stop, he just sort of carried on. But I don't know if he moved before the lights, and there's Piastri just sailing into the barrier there. Yeah, I mean, it's not like, if you look at it, look, he's gone to the right now. He moved over to the right. And obviously he's in the dirty air, the cars in front, but he's just smashed the front tyre so early on in that braking zone. I can't recall, Harry, anyone hitting that barrier all weekend. We saw people hitting the inside, we saw people hitting the outside of 6, but don't really recall people locking up into that barrier. We're going to see it from the Alpine.
Yeah, here's Pierre Gasly, who was starting towards the back, and there goes Oscar Piastri with the lock-up. You see Gasly coming in. He's actually scraped that inside, and there is more drama involving the Sauber of Nico Hülkenberg and the Haas of Esteban Ocon. Now, we saw Ocon, who started last, come into the pits to change his tyres as we get another look, and there. It's a hefty hit, manages to control it, and they both get away relatively unscathed. We'll see it a bit clearer here. A bit of carbon fibre falls off, but Ocon has come into the pits and actually come in a second time, exactly as Bernie was saying on the pit wall, to put on another hard tyre. We've got 19 cars left in this race. Oscar Piastri is the retirement. From the start, the top 6 remains the same. Isaac Hadjar has made gains. Lando Norris lost to position, with the 2 Ferraris now rounding out the top 10 as the barrier repairs get underway. Our first safety car, Ted Kravitz. Well, we didn't have to wait long for that one.
I don't think anybody had it on their bingo card that it was going to be Oscar Piastri, the man who's been so cool under pressure, horizontal, nothing gets to him. As Karun says, will the real Oscar Piastri please identify yourself, because that's not what we've seen at this weekend's Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Bernie was absolutely right. Ocon cycled back. We think first round it was potentially for a puncture. Went onto the other tyre, then has gone back to the hard tyre. It's going to be at the back anyway, so let's see if Ocon can go to the back, to the end of the race on this set. But also a mention for Lewis Hamilton. Good start for him, up 2 places to P10.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. This just allows everybody as well under the safety car to manage their tyres and try and extend their stint. Incident involving Oscar Piastri, noted for a false start moving before the signal, and the same, Karun, for Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, I don't believe anything will happen to Piastri in terms of that being carried over to Singapore. I think I'd like to see Alonso's start in slow motion, to be honest, because it seemed to me like he moved when he saw Piastri move. And to be honest, as a driver in the cockpit, you're at that heightened sense of tension. And as soon as you see some movement on the grid, you think you need to go. You think, ooh, have I missed the lights? The others have gone. And you do react. I feel a little bit of sympathy for Fernando Alonso, but if he has moved before the lights, and as I say, we haven't seen the slow-mo replay, then it's a slam dunk penalty.
Yeah, Fernando Alonso, who did start, well, directly behind, but 2 positions back from Piastri in 11th, still in 11th at the moment. Safety car then will come in at the end of this lap, but it was a great start from the grid for Max Verstappen, so too for the top 3, all able to work their way through. They're all fighting, but over the course of the next, well, now 51 minus 4 laps, they're all almost in different fights as well, Verstappen, Sainz and Lawson. So I wonder if they might be able to play together here as well in this initial stint of the race.
Well, what does Verstappen do on the restart? First of all, historically, the drivers have gone as late as possible when they get up to safety car line 1, so they don't give the cars behind a big slipstream. That's what Sainz and the others will be expecting Verstappen to do. So does he do something different to try and surprise them by going early? Let's have a look. He's weaving. It's so important, Harry, to pick the right gear, to pick the right revs, to pick the right moment and catch your rivals by surprise.
And so easy for Carlos Sainz to snatch a break and find himself in a place he doesn't want to be. But this is why they weave all the way to the start line, because the safety car, while that's made its way already back to the pit lane, Max Verstappen becomes the effective pace setter. And when he puts his foot to the floor, they will try and stay with him. But it's 2.2 kilometers down this long start-finish straight. The wind has that huge effect as well. So Max Verstappen will be leaving it to the last available opportunity, but look how tight it's getting there. Kimi Antonelli just dipping out in that Mercedes behind, and there rise the revs, and we're back underway in Baku. The safety car in, and lap 4 finishes as we begin lap 5 of 51. Max Verstappen leads. We've got the 2 Mercedes side by side coming into turn 1 as the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc takes Norris going into
Leclerc overtook Norris.
On the Mercedes, I think it was George Russell
Tsunoda
has
overtook
lost
Russell
positions as well, as he now finds himself fighting with the second of the racing bulls.
Leclerc ने Norris को overtake कर
Isaac
लिया.
Hadjar over
Wow.
6 and 7.
Yeah, Leclerc caught Lando napping there on the restart, immediately got the jump on him, even before the braking zone. He was in front. Russell, I think, went a bit wide at turn 1. Norris trying to have a look on the outside of turn 3, but Leclerc has him covered.
Lewis Hamilton trying to have a sniff at Lando Norris as well, but this is where the overtaking spots
start to get as we come towards
turn 5 and 6, where we lost Oscar Piastri into the wall on the right side on lap 1. They all this time on the restart make it safely through. Verstappen though with the start he needed. Now 1-2 seconds clear of Sainz. Lawson follows. Antonelli fending off George Russell, who lost the position to Tsunoda early doors, as Hadjar battles for 7. Charles Leclerc through on Norris as they now one by one make their way up through the castle section. Norris then down to 9. Hamilton rounding out the top 10.
So as expected, Fernando Alonso has been given a 5-second time penalty, so that he will serve when he comes in for his pit stop.
So too has Oscar Piastri, 5-second time penalty, full stop for movement before the signal, but because he's not in this race anymore, he will not be able to serve it. So I would imagine that then carries over into Singapore in a couple of weeks' time, as we've got Lando Norris all over the back of the racing bull. Charles Leclerc has just made his way through on Isaac Hadjar, and that left Hadjar absolutely vulnerable to Lando Norris down this start finish straight. The racing bulls driver who didn't have the easiest of starts on his way to the grid with a hydraulic issue managed to fix it. They'll go side by side. Charles Leclerc having to look in his mirrors as well. Hamilton trying to get his way through. Lando Norris around the outside makes his way through on Isaac Hadjar, but the French rookie fights back, but he can't, and then has to defend from Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari. Norris moves up position, sticking with the Leclerc Ferrari, and here comes Lewis Hamilton now. These two getting on very well, side by side, off the track, and on the track it continues. Hadjar holds the position.
Yeah, it all started when Hadjar made a mistake at turn 16, and that's going to be something the drivers have to watch out for. They get a tailwind, which really destabilizes the rear of the car. So it funnels around the building, and it's hitting the driver's sort of side tail in terms of direction there as it comes through to 16. And that then affects your run all the way up, Harry, as you said, 2.2 kilometers to Telemetry. Here's the restart from Leclerc. Now watch. There's a moment where the cars up ahead accelerate there. And Norris just a fraction slower. And you can see the back up ahead is broken away. So Lando doesn't have as good a slipstream into the headwind. Caught napping, and Leclerc drives around the outside, braking on the clean part of the track and gets the move done.
And this is what we come to know back for 2, 3, 4 cars, all jostling for position. Here's Russell. And they were going side by side, the two Mercedes drivers, and Russell just being edged out wide to ease off, otherwise the barrier was there to greet him, and that cost Russell. He's behind Tsunoda now, down in 6, as we look to the top end of the field, which is a Red Bull, followed by Williams, followed by a Racing Bulls. As Max Verstappen starts to edge away, his teammate Yuki Tsunoda having a much better race weekend so far in that second Red Bull, has got George Russell for company. Russell trying to find his way to Tsunoda maybe could play the team game here this afternoon.
I think Russell's annoyed because he's now stuck behind Tsunoda. He was alongside Antonelli. I think he feels Antonelli could have given a bit more space. He then lost momentum in one, and it's allowed Tsunoda pass. Clearly, Tsunoda is struggling for pace because Antonelli's broken DRS, and Russell now, you can see it, he's all over the back of that Red Bull, and he's frustrated. He's losing race time by being stuck there behind Tsunoda.
George Russell through the corners. They were being given a 5-second time penalty for jumping at the start. 5-second time penalty. Yeah, Alonso only that we saw it happen. Tough, but
Finally, Lamar, let's go.
Easier said than done. An easy mistake to make, and Fernando Alonso was doing it, then I think you have to take that for what it is.
Yeah, honestly, it's just you react to what's happening around you sometimes. And as I said before, I have sympathy for him in that front. Now, let's see if George Russell can get a good run out of turn 16. The magic number, Harry, seems to be around 6 tenths.
Sorry,
this corner, 6 tenths behind your rival. On this occasion, 7 tenths to George. Let's see if with the headwind might be enough. We're going to yellow flag somewhere.
Yeah,
it's gone green, so maybe somebody just off in the runoff area. But let's see, he's going to pop the DRS open now. Not quite close enough. So I think it is looking like you need to be around maybe the half-second mark.
Kimi Antonelli also looking at the guy in front of him, Lando Norris flying with the Ferrari once more. The Ferraris both doing battle. Charles Leclerc is not able to escape Lando Norris here. Lewis Hamilton has now been able to get through on Isaac Hadjar. And up position, it's two Ferraris against one McLaren now on the lower reaches of the top 10. A reminder, McLaren came into this weekend as the first available opportunity to be able to take the Constructors' World Championship. They must outscore Ferrari by at least 9 points. Whilst that's still technically possible, it's all on Lando Norris to do now.
Let's have a look. This is Hamilton on Hadjar in the slipstream. DRS open for Hamilton. He just gets the braking done in time. Look at that patch on that left tyre. Beautifully judged by Lewis there. To be honest, there's a sense of inevitability around the Constructors' Championship, isn't it? For me, today is about Lando's chance to bank a load of points. You know, he's come into the weekend 31 points behind Oscar. 18 goals lost in Zandvoort. But Oscar the barrier, this is the chance for Lando to pull back as much as possible. And losing out on that restart to Leclerc has put him in this position where he's faster than Leclerc. I do believe he's got more pace, but he's now stuck there, and he's got to find a way past soon.
He certainly does at the moment. He'll be wanting to pick up more than 4 points, though, to try and close that gap to Oscar Piastri in the Drivers' Championship. That battle continues to heat up as we are on now lap 8. It starts to settle down slightly. Max Verstappen is pulling away at the top. Meanwhile, though, Kimi Antonelli and George Russell are vying. It's Russell and the Mercedes that we're looking at the moment. All over the back once more of Yuki Tsunoda in the Red Bull. He's still not able to find a way through on that second Red Bull, as the first Red Bull currently sets the fastest lap of the race. And I tell you what, while Tsunoda holds up Russell, they're bringing Leclerc, Norris and Hamilton into play here quite nicely behind. So we're going to get a huge battle for 5th place in, well, I think just a couple of corners' time.
Carlos Sainz is doing a great job, I think, by the way, in 2nd place. He's only 1.7 behind Max Verstappen. Last time around, only 0.3 slower than the Red Bull. The Williams have looked quick all weekend long, and at the moment, Sainz on the medium tyre, it has to be said, but he is holding his own in that 2nd place. So Russell now, he's got to get closer. The Red Bull seems faster in a straight line inherently. If you take away the DRS benefit, it's inherently faster than the Mercedes. I think Russell is going to have to try and get closer to Tsunoda into and out of 16, because as you said, Leclerc now is within DRS. On this lap, Charles Leclerc now 8/10 to George Russell, and he's going to be within DRS. He's pulling Lando with him, who's then pulling Lewis with him.
Yeah, and last lap around, George Russell 3/10 quicker than Yuki Tsunoda in front of him, but continuing to try and find a way past the Japanese driver, who himself is in need of a good result. But here we go then, this will be the prime opportunity for George Russell, but that Red Bull in a straight line, just able to have a bit of an edge, but he won't get the aid of DRS. So can Russell close in? Here he comes then, you can see by car length he closes, moves to the outside. Tsunoda takes the inside line. Can Russell get more traction on the exit and tuck in underneath? Tsunoda defends once more, forces Russell to bide his time, but Russell running that Mercedes to and fro.
He'll have another opportunity here. There's another DRS zone down to turn 3. This should be the chance for Russell to break on the clean side of the track, and he does it. So that is a big relief for George Russell. He can now set off after Kimi Antonelli.
Nice move from George Russell then. Tsunoda will start to have to look in his mirrors once more, because Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton are all right behind in this tasty trio.
So this is where the move was set up, I think, a little bit back in turn 1. Because Tsunoda went for the inside, he was then slow into 2. Russell then got a better run, better line through turn 2. That set him up for a better exit, and then the benefit of DRS, making sure that the move was executed well.
Meanwhile, back out up front, almost 2.5 seconds the gap now between Verstappen and Sainz. Lawson sticking with them. Antonelli is all over the back of Liam Lawson though, so we'll look out for that. That might be a move soon, as rain might well be inbound in 20 minutes time, as we get the strategy and the strategists on the pit wall starting to look above themselves at how the clouds are unfolding themselves. We go towards the end of lap 10. Let's head down to Ted.
Got to say, heavy clouds around here, but no rain yet, Harry. I'll let you know if there is. So crucial for Antonelli. Lawson doing a brilliant job holding the Mercedes of Antonelli. But now George, who might want to have a go at Lawson himself, will have to get past Antonelli if he can. We'll see what Mercedes do about that. Can I give a shout out to Franco Colapinto, Harry, who had a great opening phase and is now starting a bit of a DRS train, holding up Stroll, Hulkenberg, his own teammate Gasly, and Ollie Behrman behind him. That's a long train of cars that can't get past Colapinto with a very slim rear wing and quick in a straight line.
Yeah, absolutely. Colapinto from 16 up to 13 at the moment. Teammate Gasly in that train down in 16. This is something we were wary of getting though, these DRS trains. And at the moment, Yuki Tsunoda is causing another one. Here's his teammate.
Keep on top of management, you know our plan for the day.
Jean-Pierre Alain on the radio. Management so crucial round here. Max Verstappen started on the hard tyre. Go as long as you can. Would have been able to extend the stint thanks to the safety car coming out for Oscar Piastri on lap 1. Piastri's out of this race. Only 19 cars remain.
Yeah, but Max, of course, on the hard tyre will have that plan of going long. Now, as Bernie was saying before, are they planning to just keep going until the rain comes, in case the rain does come? Let's see how that plays out. I'm interested to see how Mercedes play this now, because Russell is, obviously, he's now clear off Tsunoda. We'll see how his pace is relative to Antonelli, because it has to be said, Antonelli all weekend long has looked on good form, hasn't he? And Russell's been complaining, not very confident with the brakes, not particularly happy with the car, got qualified by Antonelli for only the second time this season. And Antonelli has had the upper hand, so I'm interested to see how that inter-team battle goes.
Yeah, outqualified George Russell for only the second time this season. It's his best start from fourth place in 6 races. So this is what they all needed. You spoke to Bono on the grid, just need a nice clean weekend to show what that pace can achieve. Lewis Hamilton following still in the wheel tracks of Lando Norris.
So Tsunoda with that slightly slippery Red Bull is able to keep Leclerc at bay, and he's got his own mini DRS train, hasn't he? It's between Tsunoda, Leclerc, Norris, Hamilton. It's a little bit of a stalemate there, and we'll see, really, I think we saw it with George. I mean, you need to be around the half-second mark against the Red Bull out of turn 16. So Leclerc will be mindful of that. Obviously, turn 15 is where he crashed in qualifying yesterday. It is the corner where a lot of drivers have been struggling with the wind as well at 15 and 16. And somehow, Leclerc in the dirty air has got to find a way to get within that half-second of the Red Bull in front.
Yeah, they do need to do that with Tsunoda and Russell ahead of them on the hard tyre, going longer into this race than that medium tyre.
Got a shot out of Liam Lawson. He's doing a fantastic job there in the racing balls. He's, Kimi Antonelli a second away, so I don't know if he'll get DRS on this particular lap, but Lawson, a bit like Sainz ahead of him, who's now extended that gap 2.3, but Lawson's holding his own, and I think he's doing a really super job.
And there are the top 3 making their way down the start-finish straight now. Max Verstappen keeping them in sight, with Carlos Sainz in second, Lawson in third, though Lawson getting more and more pressure though from Antonelli behind.
George Russell, fastest lap last time round, a 46.1. He took 8 tenths out of Kimi Antonelli, so that is a strong lap from George Russell. Bernie Collins, I wonder, do you think the hard tyres now, we've sort of getting a crossover point where the hard tyres starting to become the preferred one to have?
Yeah, I think the hard tyre is preferred, Corinne, and I think that what Verstappen's doing, like we've discussed, is managing pace, trying to extend that stint. But as well as that, it's a lot on, he's towing Carlos Sainz behind him and then Liam Lawson behind that. So it actually looks pretty difficult for Antonelli. He's been very close to Lawson for a good number of laps now and doesn't have the top line speed to get past him. And that's crucial, I think, because not only is he preventing overtaking behind him by keeping that group nice and tight, they also don't have a pit window to drop into, so the longer that Max can extend, keep this hard tyre pace where it is, just open the gap very, very slightly, it's helping Sainz and Lawson hold on to these positions.
Thanks, Bernie. Just get a look from Ollie Behrman a few moments ago, making the move on Pierre Gasly. Ollie Behrman up into 16th spot.
Let's see, Ocon's not really made progress, has he? He's obviously going to try and just keep going on that hard tyre, maybe even to the end of the race. We heard Andrea Stella saying this morning, Harry, didn't we, that, someone at the back, if you pitted early, you could do 50 laps on a set of hard tyre. A challenge at the end, but you could keep going. So Ocon at the moment, he's what? He's 26 seconds off the lead. If you take, it's around
We race are the tyres you buy. MRF.
DRS train that Ted mentioned. Look at that, Franco Colapinto. He's got one heck of a train behind him.
Colapinto leading Stroll, Hulkenberg, Behrman, Gasly, and then you go back to Albon and Esteban Ocon. Keep an eye on Ocon for exactly those reasons. We'll watch his progress throughout the course of this race. Alex Albon has only pitted once. He's stuck on the medium tyre having started. So, unfortunately for him, crashed in turn 1 in qualifying, which rather ruined his chances of scoring points. So he'll be seeing that Carlos Sainz, his teammate, is still running pretty strongly up in second, and rue what that quali could have gave the Thai driver as we flash back up over the hill through the castle section. So tight, as we see from George Russell's Mercedes in 5th, looking at his teammate in front of him Kimi Antonelli as these two draw closer once more. Already had a close shave in the early stages of this Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and this is really now a fight for third place. Liam Lawson's Racing Bulls currently occupies that spot.
I wonder if Mercedes will make the phone call to swap, because Russell looks like he's got more pace. Antonelli's been bottled up behind Lawson. He's not been able to make the move, not been able to get past. If I was George Russell, I'd be on the phone saying, swap us now, let me have a crack at Lawson. Maybe I'll be able to get ahead on the harder tyre.
Both with DRS, those two Mercedes getting closer to the back of Liam Lawson. Kimi Antonelli has a little look out, not close enough to try and dive down the inside, and that just brings Russell further into play as they continue to squabble over these places. So you're absolutely right, Karun. Surely I'd love to hear a bit of team radio as to what is going back and forth between these two drivers. Fourth and fifth at the moment are the two Williams. Flash back, and finally we have the Alex Albon Williams getting through on Pierre Gasly, and I think just ahead of them is Franco Colapinto and Lance Stroll, who are continuing to dice over 13th and 14th. But that's a place picked off finally for Alex Albon on fresher tyres up into 17th place.
So Lawson definitely coming under more pressure now. He's dropped back a bit further from Carlos Sainz. The lead up at the front, by the way, up to 4 seconds for Max Verstappen. So he's sort of checked out. Further back, that battle of Leclerc-Tsunoda, we haven't seen them in a little while, but again, a bit of stalemate. Leclerc not able to get past Tsunoda. So we're in this sort of hold phase of the race, aren't we? It's going to mix up around the pit stops, but it feels like who's going to pull the trigger first in terms of Leclerc, Norris, Hamilton. How do they play that to try and get ahead of Tsunoda, who is on the harder tyre, and you'd expect to go a bit longer?
Well, let's see. Let's just have a look at how George Russell closes in on Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes, and they're flashing through Liam Lawson in third, with the whole nation resting on his shoulders to try and be the first New Zealander on the Formula One podium in 50 years. Right, down towards turn one. George Russell closing on Antonelli. Antonelli closing in on Lawson, but it's a stalemate once more through the 90-degree left-hander of turn one. Before you know it, the next one comes along. We'll get another dose and see how that one unfolds, but at the moment they are stuck in that train as Stroll continues to try and battle with Franco Colapinto's Alpine up ahead. Colapinto to the inside, defends that position. Stroll has to tuck in behind. The Canadian is making gains on the Argentine in front of him as we get action in the pit. It's Alex Albon. Ted, what do you see?
Yeah, I'm seeing the hard tyres go on, and that's a good idea. You can go to the end on the hard tyres from now on. So even though it's slightly frustrating for Alex, he just made that pass up the field. Nice stop, by the way, 2.4 seconds. Well done, Williams. He can go to the end. That's worth it. Is stopping under green flag conditions not what they really want to do now? And I think that's what Lando Norris is thinking down at McLaren, or at least his engineers are. He's saying the pace is okay. It's just the dirty air. I'm stuck in the DRS at the moment, says Norris.
I think I've got tyre advantage to get past Lawson. Copy that, George.
And there's the message.
Yeah, exactly as they said a few laps ago. If I was in George's car, that's exactly what I'd be saying is, you know, I've got more pace, and at the moment, by being stuck behind Antonelli, he's hurting his tyres. You're in the dirty air, you're sliding around a bit more, and you're damaging the tyres. So any advantage you should have by having this harder tyre now is being offset by driving around behind my teammates. So what do Mercedes do? Do they react? Do they bring Antonelli in, try and get him out of Lawson's train and give George the opportunity? They don't on this lap. They carry on. By the way, Franco Colapinto is doing a big favour for Fernando Alonso, because that gap is now 7.3 seconds. So Alonso will be able to pit, serve his 5-second penalty, and still not lose a position. So yeah, I think he owes Franco a drink at the end of the race.
I think Flavio Briatore might be all right with that one as well.
You cynic, Harry, you cynic. Flavio Briatore, of course, Fernando Alonso's manager.
Exactly that. Right, as we just get a look at Esteban Ocon eyeing up the back of the Alpine of Pierre Gasly and making his way through. That just happened a few moments ago. Let's check back in. Down on the pit wall, as we just see Lewis Hamilton actually have a close shave with the wall coming through turn 7, lock up, and lucky not to find the barrier. Just noticed he lost a bit of time to Lando Norris. Looked like he made that mistake and just about saved himself from going into the wall, did Hamilton. He holds on to 9th. Let's head down to the pit wall though, Bernie Collins.
Yes, hi. So Colapinto has just now boxed as well. That's a reaction to the Albon attempted undercut. And that is going to drive some of those people in that midfield, in that DRS train to stop. Do they stop now, get off that medium tyre and onto the hard? And that's what Mercedes and Antonelli will be thinking at the top against Lawson. They have a potential chance to undercut.
Oh, sorry, Bernie, getting to come in front of you as there's contact between Alex Albon, just as we were discussing his strategy unpanning, and it's poor Franco Colapinto in the Alpine who is the victim there. That's coming through the long left-hander of 5, and round goes Colapinto, back up and running though.
Oscar Piastri have had a good view of it. We saw him still stuck out there watching on presumably a marshal's telephone. He's sitting down at turn 5 where that happened just in front of him, poor Oscar. But those hard tyres look completely flat-spotted on Colapinto's car. So there'll be communication going back and forth now between him and the pit wall about what he does next. Let's take a look at the replay. So riding on board with Albon, they come out of turn 4, and Albon... It's not really a gap. It's not a conventional overtaking spot. There wasn't really a gap, I don't think. Albon wasn't far enough alongside.
Yeah, we're going to have to get the driver guidelines out again. Yeah. And he does actually make contact with the outside wall as well.
Yeah, I think. I mean, he's looking in his right-hand mirror, and then he's sort of not committed to the inside. He's sort of in no man's land there, Colapinto. Albon thought there was an opportunity, but it all felt a bit clumsy to me. I think Albon might be in a little bit of trouble as well.
Similar corner though to the likes of Sandra, where it's kind of a never-ending left-hander. In that case, it's right-handed. It's even trickier almost to pick out the exact point of the apex for when they start to look at that one, if indeed they do. But it's a rather shame for Colapinto and Albon, but both getting back and underway in this race. Currently right at the back. Ted, what have you got?
I think agree with you, Karun. I think Albon's going to get a penalty for that. Mercedes, they're going to solve this particular problem by pitting Kimi Antonelli. They thought about it the last time round, and now they're out with hard tyres. So quite a simple solution. Antonelli, a bit disappointing. He wasn't able, with what we think is a faster car than the Racing Bulls, to get past Liam Lawson. And yeah, they're going to solve that by you can see him coming in right now.
Absolutely, heading straight for the Mercedes pits stop, and they get to work. Fairly quick from the Mercedes team as they send him on his way, 2.7 seconds, but crucially, it clears him out of the way of George Russell.
Yeah, and also, crucially, he's going to find a nice bit of clean air to come out into behind Fernando Alonso. So he should have a few seconds of free air ahead to try and just unleash a bit of pace. He's got to be a little bit sensible because you do have to carry this tyre to the end of the Grand Prix. We're only on lap 19, so let's just have to think about that a little bit. But he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to be too safe. So this is his chance to jump Lawson. That's what they're trying to do. Unleash some pace now. Also manage the tyre, but by the way, try and get quick enough to jump Liam Lawson when he pits.
Now, the incident involving Albon and Colapinto, by the way, is under investigation, causing a collision. So we'll keep you updated with that one. But yes, within the Albon resulting in a penalty on that front. Yuki Tsunoda is who we're just riding on board with there, doing a good job at the moment to stay in front of the pack behind. Now, Kimi Antonelli's been cleared. We come out of turn 16, 2.2 kilometres, bit of a headwind going down that start-finish straight. Russell within the DRS as Albon gets a 10-second time penalty to serve during this race for crashing into Colapinto. Now Russell closing. He looks a bit too far back at this stage, but we know the DRS effect can be quick. As Leclerc is told to box, it's allowed Russell to close up, but that Racing Bulls is pretty quick in the corners, particularly through turn 1 in qualifying yesterday. Wilson was absolutely raving about that as Charles Leclerc comes in to the pits, puts on a set of hard tyres, and Ferrari send him back out into this race.
I'm a little bit surprised McLaren didn't pull the trigger for Norris, because Lando looks, well, certainly early on he looked like he had more pace, but he's stuck in that DRS train. Ferrari have taken the opportunity to get Leclerc out of that train behind Tsunoda, try and jump Tsunoda, who is on a harder tyre. You can see Antonelli in front of him there, and Leclerc weaving around, trying to generate a little bit of heat and temperature into the hard tyre. We'll see whether, we're actually heading right opposite the McLaren pit garage here, and we know with Oscar Piastri out of the race, if we see any movement, that means they're getting ready for Lando's pit stop.
George Russell still closing on Liam Lawson. 8/10 back at the moment, coming up towards 15. You want to be around about 6/10 within the car in front when you come out of the next corner. This is where you get a real helping hand or a hindrance, depending on which direction the wind is blowing. George Russell coming for Liam Lawson's third place right now, but the young Kiwi doing an excellent job so far in this race. That excellent job began yesterday in qualifying, and so far running a good race. Is he going to come into the pits though? Lawson does. Box, box is the message called as that releases George Russell on his way. Clear air for the British racer now. That puts Tsunoda up to fourth. Liam Lawson approaching the Racing Bulls pits now. Let's keep an eye out for where Kimi Antonelli is then, making his way now down that long start finish straight. Looks like he should be able to get it.
I think it's going to be tight pressure on the Racing Bulls mechanicals. Don't forget, Antonelli's coming at a real rate of north down the straight. There goes Alonso. There's Lawson scrambling for grip on the way out. But his tyres are not going to be at full temperature. We saw Leclerc waving around. This is Antonelli's opportunity. He's going to have DRS on the run down to turn 3. He's got the tyres in the temperature that he wants. Look at Lawson waving around, trying to get that heat, and just hanging on.
How close was that between Lawson and Antonelli, fighting hard. Lawson almost losing the car, coming out of the pit lane as they fight on track. Good work from the pit crew down at Racing Bulls, but Kimi Antonelli right onto the back of him now. We get into the middle sector of the lap. So tricky to find a way through here. Near on impossible as we now head towards the Old Town in Baku. Closes right up under braking. Gets a little bit of a wobble on the rear end, and this is where it is impossible to overtake. Up and over the hill, the next opportunity now, coming out of 16 as we once again will ride down towards the start-finish straight.
So, Lando Norris has been told, Harry, plus 10 on the target. So they've decided to go for the offset as Charles Leclerc. Leclerc, as we said, pull the trigger early. We know Lawson and Antonelli have also pitted. So they are trying to extend Norris's stint. Do they think there's rain coming, or are they just going for an offset in terms of the tyres and hope he has grip to attack? Bernie, what do you think?
I do agree with you, Corinne. I agree that they're trying to go longer, but Bortoleto has a game to play in this. You wouldn't think he has, but Bortoleto is running out there on hard tyre. He's going to extend his stint. Leclerc is currently behind him, so I think that McLaren think there's a possibility that by extending that little bit of traffic for Leclerc, it results in Norris maybe getting that position later.
Thanks, Bernie. As we have seen the swap for positions between Kimi Antonelli and Liam Lawson, but Lawson's going to try and fight back with the aid of DRS as we approach the next short straight. Kimi Antonelli sits that Mercedes in the middle of the track. Lawson tries to weave and force a mistake, has to sit behind. The move then made by Kimi Antonelli, 9th on the road at the moment. Lawson will try and stick with him, but the Racing Bulls driver with a good effort early on in this Grand Prix. Now it will be Russell against Antonelli. So if Russell pits now then, with the predicted gap between them, Russell will be ahead of Kimi Antonelli, but not by much.
Yeah, but Russell, is just, because he's been released, he's done the fastest lap of anybody on track last time round, a 45.3, 2/10 quicker than Verstappen. So Russell's got some pace in his car, even on those used hard tyres, he's able to extend it. So they're not going to pit him down. They're going to extend his stint as much as they can, as long as he's got pace, and as long as he's still, that gap is comfortable enough for him to clear. Frankly, they're not so bothered about Antonelli, but it's about clearing Lawson. They don't want to get stuck behind Lawson later on.
focus from Liam Lawson's side of the garage as Max Verstappen, who we actually haven't seen too much of so far, neither of Carlos Sainz, who is just up there behind him, almost 7 seconds back, 1 and 2 at the moment. 10 years ago, Toro Rosso teammates in their rookie seasons. Max Verstappen still a part of the Red Bull family. Sainz has found a new home at Williams, and having not scored a point in a Grand Prix since the Canadian Grand Prix earlier this year, he will be desperate to try and convert maybe into a podium at the very least, a top point score, as we see his teammate Alex Albon down the inside towards the start-finish straight down towards turn 1, and makes the move further back in the pack down to Fernando, getting past Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin. Ted.
So Fernando's back there because he pitted and served his 5-second penalty, Harry. So that's why Fernando is back there fighting for 17th and 18th. Right, Carlos Sainz. He knows how to win Grand Prix, doesn't he? He knows how to be on the podium, right? But Williams has got a decision now because they don't want to get undercut, start to get undercut by the likes, or even get into the threat of Antonelli, of Lawson, of Russell eventually when he pits. So they're okay for the moment. He's done the hard work, helped by Lawson, holding everybody up was Carlos Sainz. But they're going to have a decision sooner or later. I'm interested, maybe we can get Bernie's views on this, what Williams do to try and secure this podium that Sainz and Williams want so much. Bernie, Harry, Karun, what do you think?
Well, should we hear from Bernie first, down on the pit wall?
Yeah, just to pick up from Ted there. So looking at the strategy software in front of me, I think that what Sainz needs to do is try and run as optimum a race as he can, try and have the best hard tyres at the end. Even if he survives the undercut threat from Russell and Russell emerges behind, Russell will go on to that medium tyre, which will be very, very strong at the end. So Sainz needs to extend this set as far as he can, get him and be able to hold on to that hard tyre at the end. We see the hard doing well, so hopefully that would at least secure a P3 for him, even if Russell did get by.
I think they're also looking at the gaps, because at the moment, between Hadjar and Hamilton, there's a gap of about 6.5 seconds. And if Sainz pitted now, he'd come out alongside Hadjar. He is quicker. Last time around at 45.7, but Sainz 9/10 quicker than Hadjar. So in a couple of laps, he will find himself with that gap available should they want to pit. Quick line on Lando Norris, Harry. So we're watching the battle of Norris versus Leclerc. At the moment, the gap between them, 19 seconds. The pit lane loss, we think, is around 20.5, 21. So it's tight. McLaren have got to try and hold that Norris's medium tyres allow him to extend just a little bit more. Last time around, they did pretty much the same lap time within a tenth of each other.
Yeah, at the moment, on the road for 5th and 6th. We're looking further down the field on board Ollie Behrman, who was really frustrated with himself in qualifying yesterday. A mistake saw him out of Q2. He's all over the back of Nico Hulkenberg, but they're stuck behind Lance Stroll. Now, how can we get a read on that weather radar then? Rain inbound, a few minutes away, but from the rain we've seen already this weekend, it can drizzle, but it doesn't really stick around too much.
Yeah. It's, well, that was yesterday.
Today is today.
Who knows what happens today, Harry?
What do you expect here in Baku, Karun?
What do you unexpected?
There it is.
I've only heard it about 1 million times.
I said I wouldn't say it, but everyone else did. So, right, we are looking, here is that battle. Charles Leclerc further down, having pitted on the hard tyre now, finding himself getting in the mix with Liam Lawson, who lost ground to Kimi Antonelli after that move was made. George Russell still out there up in 3rd. This is the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. Didn't make it 5 consecutive pole positions with his crash in qualifying yesterday, but is trying to make amends for it today, having now pitted. Those who have pitted, by the way, just as a reminder, Antonelli, Lawson and this man Leclerc, they're all on the hard tyre. Ocon, we are keeping an eye on Esteban Ocon, who started right at the back. He's done 2 pit stops under the first safety car. He's on the hard tyre, could go all the way to the very end with Alex Albon, who has now done 2 stops. Alonso and Colapinto at the back of the pack. Oscar Piastri, the championship leader, out of this race on lap 1, crashing into the wall at turn 5.
Yeah, he was judged to have had a false start, but that penalty won't carry over for anyone who just tuned in to the Grand Prix. Lando Norris getting a bit of advice on the wind at the moment, which is so dusty, isn't it? You sort of stand there in the grid, and there are points where you feel like you're being blown over, and then suddenly it goes calm. So that's the challenge for these drivers who are driving these incredibly wind-sensitive cars at such high speed. If you get a gust of wind in the wrong place at the wrong time in an unpredictable way, you can be in trouble.
Here comes Antonelli with the DRS, making his move on Gabriel Bortoletto, who is having a subtle race, but we'll watch out for him in that Sauber as Antonelli makes his mark up into 8th. As we now swap over to the sister Sauber of Nico Hülkenberg down in 13th. He's been staring at the back of Lance Stroll for a little while now as they get very close coming into turn 1. Onto the accelerator, can't find a way through here. Coming through turn 2, this will be another opportunity for Nico Hülkenberg, who is within half a second now. The DRS button gets flipped open as he closes in on Lance Stroll. This is outside of the points at the moment, and they're bringing Ollie Behrman along for the ride too.
This is brilliant pace, mate. Keep it away.
So Liam Lawson is going to start getting some pressure from Charles Leclerc, who's approaching the DRS range. Just looking at the Russell-Antonelli battle, it's really interesting because the gap between them, Harry, is 20.5 seconds at the moment, which is about the pit stop time. So Mercedes, there's an interesting game to play there between those two drivers as we come on board Charles Leclerc, and we can now physically see the gap to Liam Lawson in front.
Yeah, we can. Lawson, who was having a great race early doors, he's closing in on Gabriel Bortoletto. While they do battle, let's check in on the pit wall. Bernie.
Yes, Harry, so just to pick up on what Corinne said, that overtake from Antonelli there, that was crucial against Bortoletto. That gives a good read for people like Norris that were hoping Leclerc might get held up, or Lawson might get held up. Can he extend enough, or is Leclerc just going to breeze by Bortoletto or Lawson, like we've seen with Bortoletto?
We've won it, joint.
That was Carlos Sainz, just showing his concern for the undercuts that George Russell might well be trying to think about with his Mercedes car as Gabriel Bortoletto comes into the pits. We haven't heard much from Sainz, but there, clearly, ever the strategist is Carlos Sainz, always thinking about the long game.
But I feel like that's what Williams signed him for, isn't it? You know, a driver who's used to running the top 3, not overawed by the position he's in, able to make calm, considered calls from the cockpit in terms of the strategy that he thinks they should be doing, because he's been there at Ferrari. So he's doing exactly what they signed him up for. He's had a tough year. He's only got 16 points on the board before today, compared to 70 for Alex Albon. But so far this weekend has been doing really well for Carlos Sainz.
Well, if Carlos Sainz does finish in second, which is worth 18 points, that's be more than he has scored for this entire season. But still a way to go yet, Ted.
Yeah, but it's what he deserves, isn't it, Harry? He's had a shocker, an absolute shocker, since leaving Ferrari and going to Williams for various different reasons. Some his fault, many not his own. And he deserves second, doesn't he, Sainz? So I can understand. I absolutely echo his message to his Williams engineers. Don't let me get undercut by Russell. Anyway, I'm following the Lando-Tsunoda battle, and he's just making no progress. Right, Sainz pits, that's crucial. But Lando's making no progress on Yuki. Yuki driving brilliantly. I think Lando's tyres are starting to go. It's just stuck at 2.5 seconds. Right, decent stop for Williams there.
Yeah, speak of Carlos Sainz, and he has come in 2.6 seconds the stop for the Williams team, and he emerges in 6th place, just ahead of Isaac Hadjar, who's coming through turn 1. Now then comes his teammate Liam Lawson, who we are looking at on board with Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, but critically for Sainz, Harry, he's still 3 seconds ahead of Kimi Antonelli. You know, even though Antonelli's cleared Lawson, opened up a gap of 3.5 seconds, Sainz has had enough pace to still remain ahead of Antonelli, and that I think is a really positive sign for Williams and Carlos, of course. And that's it, you know, it puts him in a good position to end up on the podium, because it's shown we've had more than half of the race done, and he's had the pace to run up against the Mercedes drivers, so very encouraging for Williams.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And up there as well, yet to stop. You can see the top 5 all have not yet come in for a pit stop. That includes Lando Norris's McLaren and Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari. This Ferrari has in Charles Leclerc. This was the day, the first opportunity for McLaren where they could seal the Constructors' Championship win. All they needed to do was outscore Ferrari by at least 9 points. Whilst that is still doable, right now it is not looking the case, and it will highly likely roll over into Singapore with 2 Ferraris still in the game and just 1 McLaren. But this is Baku, and we will keep a side eye on how this Constructors' Championship is panning out. As you were saying earlier, Karun, it does seem simply like a formality, but nonetheless it will be another amazing achievement for McLaren when they do achieve that. Right, back on to the track. Kimi Antonelli once more closing in on the Racing Bulls. This time it's Isaac Hadjar's 7th place. That DRS just seems to end a little bit too soon before turn 1 comes.
Yeah, you don't want to make it too easy. I like it. I like the fact that it's a challenge. We've seen too many times in the past, right? Just breeze past in DRS. I think it's just about right. It's very hard here to get the distance because of the wind changing direction so much. Hadjar's tyres, by the way, have done 28 laps now, of course, on the medium tyres. Antonelli's hard tyres have done 10 laps, so a big tyre advantage there. And all the while, that... Radio?
We are looking after you, don't worry. Status 1, clean lap, no mistake. We are looking after you.
It's quite reassuring to hear, isn't it? We're looking after you, Isaac. Don't worry. It's all under control. You can understand him wanting to come in, not wanting to lose any unnecessary time battling with Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes, which is the quicker car, and not quite in the same race are these two.
No, but I think, you know, at this stage, every lap that Antonelli's stuck behind Hadjar is kind of doing Carlos Sainz a bit of a favour, because you would expect the Mercedes to have more pace. This is allowing Sainz to build up his pace a bit more gently. You know, you don't want to hammer the tyre as soon as you put it on. You want to just ease into it. If you can give it an easier life in terms of, sorry, if you can give it just a nice gradual build-up in the first couple of laps, it'll pay dividends for the rest of the stint. If you go out there and hammer it straight away, you will hit the cliff and drop off, as Hadjar does pit, and his team have followed his request.
They have indeed. They really do attack that pit entry, don't they? But Hadjar then has got his request, and that puts Antonelli up into 7th. I was going to say it's also helping out Liam Lawson and just keeping him within touching distance of Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes, as Hadjar looks like a nice clean stop to me. Puts the hard tyre on, 2.2 seconds for the Frenchman. Box in box on the left-hand side. We can see Alex Albon all over the back of Pierre Gasly's Alpine to the inside. By the time they get to turn 1, looks like he's clearing in front of Pierre Gasly and up into 15th place. Still 19 runners left in this Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Only Oscar Piastri, the retirement on lap 1 after crashing into the wall at turn 5 for the championship leader.
So the top 5 have not pitted yet, as you can see on the graphic on the left-hand side. So you remember, Harry, we had that battle between Leclerc, Norris and Hamilton, right? They were all nose tails stuck in the DRS train. At the moment, if Lando pitted, he would come out 2 seconds behind Charles Leclerc, second and a half, 2 seconds behind, so he's not near Leclerc. And Lewis Hamilton has dropped some way off that McLaren. He's now nearly 6 seconds off Lando's McLaren as we go on board Charles Leclerc. So Leclerc being stuck behind Lawson is helpful for Lando. And I think McLaren will be keeping an eye on this gap. Try and get as big a tyre offset as possible.
Just tyre feels good, I think, just extended.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing.
George Russell then, very happy on his hard tyres right now as he clocks over the line, do 30 laps on them as he sets the 1:45.0, doing so, still finding time as well. Closing in is Charles Leclerc onto the back of Liam Lawson's Racing Bulls, once again close into the braking zone, but turn 1 comes and not a way to get through. There'll be another opportunity with the aid of the drag reduction system. The rear wing will fly open at the push of a button, and there it goes, and he'll try and close and get between 11 to 12 kilometres an hour speed advantage over the car in front of you. Lawson doesn't feel the need to defend that one. He holds the position.
So we heard that McLaren told Lando to extend earlier on, plus 10 beyond the target. And what they're trying to do is get him that tyre offset to Charles Leclerc. So at the moment, Leclerc's tyres are 11 laps old. Even if Lando ends up coming out of the pits just behind Leclerc, the hope at McLaren will be the fact that he's got fresher tyres will allow him to attack and overtake Leclerc on track. So we'll see at what point McLaren feel that Lando's performance is starting to drop off to the point where, okay, we need to get rid of these mediums and put on the set of hard tyres. Last year, of course, he started on the hard tyre. Now, you remember he started way down in 15th place and went really long.
37 laps.
Yeah, on the first stint. But this time on the medium tyre, he's gone 32 laps. So it's a good long stint there for Lando Norris and the mediums to start this race.
Yeah, it's good pace management as well. There'll be a little bit of deck, but just to put it into context, Ollie Behrman, who came in a couple of laps ago now, put on the medium tyres. He just set the fastest lap of the race, down in 18th at the moment. It's the British rookie for Haas. Max Verstappen continues to extend his lead incrementally. It's now up to 13, nearly 13 and a half seconds over George Russell, who is quite happy out there. Yuki Tsunoda running in third still. Lando Norris behind, as we've been saying. And this really is one of the closest battles on the track right now that we continue to follow.
Lando now a full pit stop behind Verstappen, such as the comfort and ease that Verstappen has been able to pull away in free air up at the front. Norris 21 seconds now behind the Red Bull, and Charles Leclerc still stuck, Harry, behind that Racing Bulls. I mean, the Racing Bulls clearly slippery enough in a straight line that Leclerc's not able to get the move down. At no point has he even looked like he's had a sniff down the inside.
No, and you have to say it's been a great drive so far from Liam Lawson and indeed Isaac Adjar, who is actually the car behind Charles Leclerc, but about 16 seconds back at the moment. Right, as we get into the middle sector, this is the man that is leading by over 13 seconds. We'll head down to the pit wall, Bernie.
Yes, Harry, and indeed, what is Verstappen showing us about the performance of this hard tyre? He managed it a little bit at the start just to get the performance life out of it, but now he's able to push on it and showing really, really strong lap times. And that gives us confidence for what Norris can do in his final stint. I have a strategy graph showing that there's a good chance he can fit that hard tyre, push it and get some overtaking done towards the end. So do not rule Norris out of this race. And the main reason for that, as Corinne mentioned, was Lawson holding Leclerc nicely behind them. So let's see when McLaren finally roll the dice, how much progress Norris can make it back through this thing.
Bernie, if you were at McLaren, we're looking at Randy Singh, their sporting director, or racing director on the pit wall. If you were McLaren, when would you pull the trigger? Do you want to give him enough laps to get the overtaking done, or do you still just keep extending and try and hope he's got a bigger tyre offset compared to the other cars?
Yeah, it's a very fine margin between the two, Corinne, really. I think you need somewhere in the region of 10 to 15 laps for what he wants to come through, so we're very quickly approaching that point now. So in the coming laps, the only thing I don't have visibility of is what their radar is saying. Now, if the radar is only very, very light green, then still getting that fresh hard tyre on, having it hot, would still be an advantage over those that he's trying to overtake.
I can tell you that the McLaren mechanics, Harry, right opposite our commentary box, they haven't got their helmets on.
They are not going anywhere anytime soon.
No, they're sitting there with their arms crossed. There's no stretching happening either.
Bernie, what about the soft tyre? We saw that in action a lot on the Friday, but is that in any way a possibility for maybe a Lando or Russell towards the end, if they really are able to extend this stint and hold position with a quick soft all the way to the flag?
I think it is, Harry. I think the concern, and that would definitely be a good tyre choice if there was some light green. As we see in Q3 yesterday, that soft tyre does perform better in those conditions. So we do need to be open to that possibility as well. That maybe means going another 5-6 laps. You maybe only want that for 10 or less at the end.
Okay, thanks, Bernie. Back to the pit lane this time, Ted.
Yeah, a lot of the people on the pit wall just watching the TV like we are have seen that branch on the track. And given that you only need to sneeze and the race director pulls a red flag this weekend, or at least a safety car, I just wonder whether they might be thinking about a little branch that's been blown onto the track and whether they might want a cheeky safety car. Listen, we'll see, but it's exactly what the likes of Lando Norris, Yuki Tsunoda and George Russell are waiting for. I'm just wondering, just a thought on Lando Norris and McLaren. It's all about big points. It's only big points today that will do two things. First of all, get them the 9 points they need on Ferrari to win the Constructors at this race. Okay, maybe they're not that bothered now that Piastri is out. And it's only big points that will help Lando Norris in his big opportunity in the Drivers' Championship against Oscar Piastri as well. Back to you for this replay of Hamilton.
Yeah, thanks Ted, as we do indeed ride on board with the 7-time champion coming into 15. And was there a little kiss of the Tech Pro? Yes, there was. Slight peck, wasn't it? We'll allow that. We'll let him get away with that one, and indeed he does get away with it. Hamilton currently up in fifth, running on that hard tyre. Started outside the top 10. Still waiting to see how this all shakes out. Liam Lawson still having the pressure applied by Charles Leclerc, but actually he's just dropped back a little bit for this last lap as Charles Leclerc, but then he closes in the final sector as nothing is bothering Max Verstappen right now.
Yeah, Leclerc not within DRS though anymore. Look at the gap there, 1.1. Antonelli, by the way, hasn't really closed up on Sainz. So underlining what we were saying before, the Williams pace is genuinely competitive this weekend. Sainz clearly holding his own against Antonelli at this point. The points table on the left slightly deceptive because we haven't had some of the cars pitting yet, so we'll see how that shakes out. We're fairly confident unless something goes dramatically wrong for Max Verstappen. He is on course for another 25 points.
Gabriel Bortoleto, the Brazilian in the Sauber, making 13th place his, overtaking Esteban Ocon's pass with the aid of DRS, and Ocon is not yet done being overtaken as he tries to defend. The two Saubers dicing as well. Hulkenberg lets his teammate through by the looks of it as the Williams of Albon slides down the inside of Esteban, of the Haas, I should say, making its way through now. That's further back in the pack. Albon making his way through on Esteban Ocon.
So Esteban Ocon, of course, pitted twice, didn't he? In the first two laps with the early safety car, and he seems to be struggling now with the cars around him. Look at that timing tower on the left. That is critical to keep an eye out for when he comes out of turn 15. So we're out of 12, rising slightly uphill through these kinks around the back of the track. Tricky braking zone for 15, where he ended in the barrier yesterday. Now this is where he's got to, this is the detection point he's going through now, and I think he again just slipped just over the 1 second mark. It's such a challenge. It's such a challenge to be able to follow the car in front through that section around the back as you wind your way around the old town and the castle section. And yeah, Leclerc again, no DRS on this occasion.
No, I wonder, because you sit so long behind the car in front of you, that dirty air, as you're saying, just starts to eat up your tyres. But he closes in on the braking once more, but the traction on the exit for the Racing Bulls, mighty for Liam Lawson, who is just able to pull away. Leclerc has closed now, though, once more into the DRS zone. The rear wing flap flies open, heading down towards turn 2, and unless it's a very late dive, it's not happening. There's more action further back, and it's in the wheel of, behind the wheel of Alex Albon down the inside of Nico Hulkenberg Sauber, who is having a bit of a rough race out there, had a bit of contact early doors. Gabriel Bortoleto, his teammate, just sailed past Hulkenberg up into 12th. Albon follows through, Hulkenberg 14th now.
And if you could get closer to Tsunoda, we could think about the undercut.
So, if he can get closer to Tsunoda ahead, he's 2 seconds back. Bernie, he's 2 seconds back at the moment, is Norris, on the medium tyre. Can he make that undercut work?
Yeah, I think from a little bit closer he could definitely make the undercut work, but McLaren are good at this game, Harry. McLaren are very good at this game. They often say these radio messages and then encourage the person in front to pit first, then they get a nice bit of clean air, and that's exactly what Norris needs in order to be able to open that all-important pit window to Leclerc and Lawson. So let's watch this space of McLaren. The undercut is on, but that might not be actually what they want to go for. And quickly, just when you were talking about Leclerc struggling to get by Lawson there, I was having a look through their telemetry, which is available to me on the pit wall, Harry, this weekend. And Leclerc's a lot faster at the end of the straight, and Lawson appears to be clipping a little bit, so his engine's derating a little bit at the straight, but still not enough for Leclerc to get past Hamilton pit.
I think Leclerc made a mistake down at turn 1. He looked quite close on the way in and dropped back a bit there, so just a little bit wide. Lewis Hamilton is pitted in the other Ferrari, so he's come back out 6.5 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. Now, this is important for McLaren to keep an eye out for. I'm still looking in their pit garages, a little bit more movement. Some mechanics starting to pick up their helmets now. Yeah, in fact, I can see all the mechanics putting their helmets on. So McLaren will be getting ready to call Lando Norris in soon.
Yeah, Lando Norris, the sole remaining McLaren driver in the field. Didn't make a bit of gain on Tsunoda that last time around, but stuck around the 2-second mark. Charles Leclerc now up into 8th spot, but still behind Liam Lawson, which is the car in front, as we have a glance out of our commentary box window, and you can see it there as well. The McLaren team confirming the pit stop imminently for Lando Norris. Here he is.
Yeah, so where is he going to come out relative to Lawson, Leclerc? We know he's going to have tyres that are 17 laps newer than what Charles Leclerc's got, and that is what McLaren's hoping will be enough. You do catch your breath, really, when it comes to that chicane.
So quickly, can you put a foot wrong? But important pit stops here for Lando Norris, and it's slow. This was to try and get that undercut on the Red Bull of Yuki Tsunoda, but that will not have helped. 4.1 seconds. It's 2 race weekends in a row with a slow pit stop. Through go Liam Lawson, and Charles Leclerc gets ahead of Lando Norris, who will come out now in the pit lane. He'll be on that fresher rubber and being on the hard tyre till the very end.
Oh, the 2 seconds. The 2 seconds there, so critical. He would have cleared this particular battle. That is massively frustrating for McLaren and Lando. Didn't really see where the issue was. The rear jack seemed to still be holding the car up in the air, but we couldn't see if there was an issue with one of the rear tyres from that angle. I think maybe the front right was where the problem was. Anyway. Such frustration for Lando Norris. It was the front left, I think, in Monza, wasn't it? And on this occasion, it seems like the front right. Let's keep an eye on it here. So he's come into the pits. We're looking from a rear angle. But the rear of the car is still up in the air.
Yeah, but there was a last minute. I think we'll keep an eye on the front right.
Yeah, let's have a look. So this is him coming into the box. Oh, yeah, there, the gun struggling to get the wheel. So the tyre's gone on, but they've struggled to tighten up the wheel nut again, and that's cost him. That's cost him those 2 positions on track.
Costly pit stop for Lando Norris then now finds himself behind Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton is the Ferrari behind him as Yuki Tsunoda now pits. 19 seconds the average time lost. Quick and simple from Red Bull is all they need for Tsunoda to help get him back into this race, and crucially ahead as Sainz goes through, Antonelli goes through. We look to Liam Lawson, who will make his way through turn 1 now. The man who replaced Lawson at the big team earlier on this year just gets ahead, but there'll be another DRS zone. Less grip for the Japanese driver. Lawson with the aid of DRS as well. Pulls side by side. These two possibly fighting for their Formula 1 careers to the end of the season, and it's Lawson Lawson who gets the jump on Tsunoda, who now has to look behind at Charles Leclerc all over the back of the Japanese driver.
And Lando's just got to watch all of that unfold, see Tsunoda come out in front of him. It would have worked. If the pit stop was, you know, a 2.2 like Tsunoda, it would have worked. He would have cleared this whole pack of cars. And for Lawson, a little bit of reprieve from the battle against Leclerc, Harry, isn't it? Because Tsunoda is struggling, you see, weaving it, trying to get the tyres up to temperature. Lawson has broken off already over a second, 1.7 to Yuki Tsunoda, and that's critical because Tsunoda won't have DRS on Lawson. Watch the bottom though of your screen. Lando Norris all over the back of Charles Leclerc. Bernie was saying he's going to have to do the overtaking on track. I think some of it's coming up. An 18-lap tyre offset to Charles Leclerc, and he's right there in DRS zone.
Round the last proper corner as George Russell is called into the pit lane. This is going to be incredibly tight here on the streets of Baku. Russell gets in and out in 2.3 seconds. Where will he place himself? Signed in third. Then comes Antonelli as we look at Lawson, Tsunoda, Leclerc and Lando Norris. The trio making their way through in the back of picture. Tsunoda with the slight advantage of track position. Lando Norris though with the help of DRS. Can he slide it down the inside? No. The braking zone comes too soon. Wrapping their way through the left-hander. Russell emerges out in second spot in this race ahead of Carlos Sainz. Antonelli now fourth. There is Liam Lawson first in picture. In fifth, Yuki Tsunoda in sixth. As we ride on board, eighth place man, Lando Norris looking at the back of the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc.
So everyone except Max Verstappen has now pitted. That's why they have called him in. He's got a massive 32-second lead over George Russell. Red Bull can take their time, get a nice clean stop. He should be fine. For Lando, he's not only going to score 4 points if he remains in 8th place. It is so critical for him for the World Championship on a day when Piastri's out on lap 1 to gain as much as he can.
Yeah, and it's just not stacked up so far, has it? I tell you what, it has stacked up well for George Russell with a brilliant stint and managing to get ahead of Carlos Sainz. That overcut working, but we know that Williams characteristically straight line speed isn't actually its strongest asset around here in Baku. Max Verstappen hits his markers outside the Red Bull garage, 2.4 seconds.
The second leader.
The tyres we race are the tyres you buy. MRF.
Podium right now as we get really into the closing stages of this Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Antonelli in fourth. Liam Lawson is just able to keep ahead of the battle behind right now. It's Lando Norris who pulls out side by side with Charles Leclerc. And before the braking zone arrives, Norris finally through on Leclerc. The McLaren man up to 7th place. The Ferrari down to 8th.
He's got to try and jump these next two cars. The gap between Lawson and Antonelli, 7.6 seconds. I think that might be a stretch too far for Lando. But these two cars are absolutely within his reach on those fresh, hard tyres. Esteban Ocon being told to swap positions with Ollie Behrman. Behrman only 11 laps on his mediums. Ocon gone 37, so that's a logical choice for Haas to make. Antonelli, it was over 3 seconds. He's now only 1.3 to Sainz, so he's edging up towards the DRS zone on the Williams. So can Mercedes get two cars on the podium? We saw it back in Canada. They got a 1-3 there for Russell and Antonelli. At the moment, there is a chance. Antonelli is just catching back up. 6/10 on the last lap on Sainz.
Oh, that is an attack on the entry to the pit lane from George Russell. Hits the pit limiter, hits his marks, and gets going and sent on his way again on that medium tyre now. The overcut working for Russell, and there goes Carlos Sainz with Kimi Antonelli behind. I think this is going to shape up to be a nice battle. Bernie, what a great result for George Russell so far, jumping Sainz.
What a result for Russell, but how costly was that pit stop for Lando Norris? As if you got
Russell on pressure at a quick car pace, it would be difficult.
Come on,
yeah, his focus is on Antonelli, isn't it? You know, he's got Antonelli 1.2 behind. Carlos is smart enough to know he's not going to race Russell at this point. The gap's 2.8 seconds. He just need to focus on this. Bernie, come back in.
Yeah, so I was just going to say that pit stop, very crucial loss for Lando Norris there. And one of the main reason why is because he's now behind Lawson, and he couldn't overtake Lawson for the entire first stint on similar tyres. And now he's back, Lawson on again similar age tyres. They're both going to close to the back of that Russell or that Antonelli and Carlos Sainz. But I don't think it's going to be very, very difficult to get past Lawson. I think he will get past Snowden.
Reports of light rain at turn 16, as if now we didn't need a little bit more excitement to bring in these closing stages, as we have to wait a little bit in this middle stint just to see how it all petered out after the pit stops. But it's coming together nicely now. Verstappen out and well into the lead of this race by over 10 seconds. But George Russell, with Carlos Sainz still behind, staring at a podium, but even more importantly, staring at big points for Sainz and Williams, his first proper big result on the cards for him at his new team. Antonelli is closing behind though. This is Liam Lawson. There's Yuki Tsunoda. They're battling over 5th and 6th, but it's so much more than that. Liam Lawson, who was in the Red Bull at the start of the year, looking promising, World Championship hopes ahead of him, demoted after just 2 races. In comes Yuki Tsunoda, and he hasn't been able to make it work either. But they're both running inside the top 6. They're both fighting for their Formula 1 careers. Is this more than just business for Tsunoda and Lawson in 5th and 6th? And while they do battle, it's Norris behind. Hamilton now up into 8th spot. Leclerc falling down to 9th. There is a tyre offset there though. Hamilton on the mediums and Charles Leclerc on the hard tyre, with Hadjar currently holding on to that final points paying position in 10th.
Yeah, Hamilton's on some pace, isn't he? He had dropped 6.5 seconds behind Lando. Obviously, Lando lost a couple of the pit stop and is now stuck in traffic. So let's see. As you said, there's a big tyre offset. Ferrari, it seems a sensible thing there for Leclerc not to fight him too hard. Let's see if Hamilton can, you know, close on the back here. The gap 2.4. As long as Lando's bottled up, they're all bottled up behind Lawson. Lewis is going to be in this fight. We've got 8 laps to go. He's absolutely going to be on the back of this fight. And I think it was a team order there for Leclerc.
It did look rather easy.
He made it very comfortable. But there's so many interesting dynamics in this battle. As you said, you talked about the Lawson Tsunoda dynamic. Lando needs to clear them, but in a safe way, because he's got a championship to think about. You got Lewis, who's coming on the back of him as well. Yeah, there's a fun 7 laps to go here.
Bortoletto's had a nice quiet race as well. He's quite a way off Hadjar though, but having started on 13th, just outside of a points-paying position, continuing to show his good form, along with that Sauber car coming on leaps and bounds and able to once again be ahead of Nico Hulkenberg. As it stands right now, the Constructors' Championship sealed by McLaren would roll on to Singapore, with Norris in 7th as we ride on board with him, closing up to the back of Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda's really struggling to find a way through on Liam Lawson here. As we approach the next dose of DRS, the line will come. Now, I think Norris is closing here on Yuki Tsunoda. The sparks will fly, but it might be the case of a bit of a DRS train once more. Lawson driving well, not putting a wheel out of place at the moment, keeping his head down, holding on to 5th place.
He's done such a good job of soaking up pressure, hasn't he? You think in the first stint he had Leclerc all at the back of him. Didn't put a foot wrong there, made sure he concentrated on the exits. Get a good exit out of 2, get a good exit out of 16, and then you're not vulnerable to attack. He's done the same thing here. You know, he's really made sure he gets a nice clean run through turns 15 and 16. And it's just kept him safe from the cars behind. So really good, smart driving, I think, from Liam Lawson.
Continuing to chase is Yuki Tsunoda, just looking towards the back of the pack as well, literally right at the back. You've got the 2 Alpines glued to 18th and 19th. Gasly on the medium tyre compared to Colapinto on the hard tyre. That move looks like it's about to come between the 2 Alpine teammates. Colapinto was having a nice ride of it to begin with, but then got rather biffed out of the way by Alex Albon in the middle of this race. Albon received a penalty for that. Here we go once more, coming through your screen. 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th place. Sonoda in 6th, chasing Liam Lawson, but Sonoda himself being chased by Lando Norris, who is desperate to try and get some big points on the board here, as Sonoda's going to be the one to try and dive down the outside line. Lawson defends as they rocket down towards turn 2. We saw very similar racing like this right at the end of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix last year between Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez, and they ended up in the wall. Fine margins here in Baku. Lando Norris needs to pick up points no matter what, but he'll be wanting to pounce on the fact that his teammate Oscar Piastri, the man who leads the championship, is out and will pick up 0 points from this Baku race. But Linus once more. Lawson 5th, Sonoda 6th, Norris in 7th, with Hamilton and Leclerc 8th and 9th, 10th.
So massive day for the championship, massive day also for Carlos Sainz. He's doing the job he needs to, Harry. He's doing a brilliant job. Yes, he's on younger tyres than Kimi Antonelli behind, but Antonelli, the gap, if anything, is just widening a bit. Antonelli from 1.5 now dropped to 1.8 behind Carlos Sainz. So fantastic driving from Carlos Sainz, keeping that Williams in that Mercedes sandwich, but ahead of the young Italian.
Don't forget, you can also go and vote in the Salesforce Driver of the Day. And right now, I have to say, we've not seen much of it. And for good reason, Max Verstappen clear out in front by over 13 seconds once more. Here's Hamilton.
These guys are fast, man. Trying to catch up. Yeah, Lawson 2 seconds and a half, right? Can do it.
So Hamilton being G'd on there, he can see the fight just ahead of him, bringing Charles Leclerc along as well. The team orchestrating a move between those two a couple of laps ago. They are glued to each other right now, but they're not able to make a pass. Lawson still holds on to 5th, 10 points for the taking for Liam Lawson, currently with 20 notched up in his bank account across this 2025 championship. This would help Racing Bulls out nicely in the constructors title fight in the mid-pack. But once again, Lawson holds on to it now, and in this middle sector, finding a move is going to be even more tricky.
Yeah, as you say, an important day for Racing Bulls on a day where Williams are going to bank 15 big points. Racing Bulls at the moment on course for 11. If Lawson can hang on for the last 5 laps, look at Lewis Hamilton though. He is within DRS, Harry. The first time we saw him on that straight from turns 2 down to 3 with DRS open, so he is now right in this fight.
The car slipping and sliding, getting to the end of the life on these tyres for some of them, but flying their way through the streets. 6 red flags we had yesterday in qualifying, and they've all been behaving themselves rather well today.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the raindrops on the camera lens. This is turn 15, we're coming down to 16, where we heard that rain view transmission before about the rain, but nothing on the camera lens of Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari. A little bit of break up though. Let's see, so he is within DRS range. I think Lando Norris is super close to Yuki Tsunoda. Maybe not. Look, from that angle it looked.
Well, let's see, the DRS line comes. The rear wing flap flies open once more across the line for lap 47 to 51, and it's carbon copy as they were. Just a word, as you were saying, at the front as Max Verstappen puts in another fastest lap and extends this gap at the front now over 14 seconds over George Russell. Carlos Sainz continuing to do a good job in third. Last lap around was a 1:44.4. Antonelli behind a 1:44.3. So really not a lot in it at the moment between Antonelli and Sainz. Antonelli not quick enough to first of all close that gap and then have the delta to overhaul it. And for Sainz, well, if there is a podium on offer here, Williams' last podium in a full-length race, well, funnily enough, it was here in Azerbaijan in 2017. Lance Stroll pipped at the line by Valtteri Bottas, but picked up 3rd place. Could they do it again in just a few laps' time, but with Carlos Sainz behind the wheel? Bernie.
Yes, Harry, brilliant defence by Lawson. He's driven really well this weekend. He had a good qualifying, but this defence, holding these faster cars on paper behind, is protecting that podium position for Carlos Sainz. Lawson, if we ever wondered of the relationship between Red Bull and the RB this is a test of it, isn't it? Would it have been different in the past? Would there have been a sneaky call to let the senior team car through? It's not happened this week, and Lawson continues to defend, and the longer he holds on to that, the better it is for Carlos Sainz.
Absolutely, Bernie, as we get the helmet camera shot once more from Lando Norris. I mean, the sheer speeds they are doing within inches of each other, over 330 kilometers an hour, but we're seeing a little bit of a chain. If you're going to want to make a move, you've got to be brave, you've got to be bold, and nobody wants to do it into turn one.
Weirdly, you know, Lawson is dragging Tsunoda along and sort of helping him in his defense of Lando Norris, isn't he? So, I am impressed that Lawson, you know, he's not got the benefit of DRS. The three cars behind him, look, the wings are all wide open. And yet, Lawson, he's not even defending, you know, going to the middle. He's just keeping his cool, staying online, not doing anything really to jeopardize any corner exits, and that's been so important for him to get that traction, launch out of the corner. Look at the battery graphic on the right. Formula 1 cars are hybrids. They have been since 2014. You've got the battery pack that sits alongside the 1.6 litre internal combustion engine. Lando Norris on that graphic says he's got got none of his battery juice, so he will have to recharge that as quickly as possible, because Lewis Hamilton behind has got 40%. So that'll be interesting when we get to the start-finish straight. Has Hamilton kept enough battery juice in reserve to attack Lando here?
This is the closest battle out on the track at the moment inside the top 10. Bortoletto be overtaken by Alex Albon. It was Bortoletto Albon, but say periphery, it's about 22 seconds, 23 seconds back. And then you've got to go back to the Alpine boys. Colapinto and Gasly, 18th and 19th, running a race on their own. Right at the back, 19 cars in this one. Oscar Piastri crashing out what seems like a lifetime ago now on lap 1. The championship leader picking up 0 points, which is why it is so crucial for Lando Norris, who, I don't know if that was my eyes playing tricks on me there, but I thought his DRS rear wing closed a little too early coming into turn 1. But compared to Yuki Tsunoda's, but once again they make their way through the first 90-degree left-handers and no moves are able to exchange. Meanwhile, it is Max Verstappen in a race of his own out in front. He's now led more laps this season than Lando Norris. Yesterday, putting it on pole position, making it 6 pole positions this season, the most of any. Andrea Stella has come out recently with quotes on Max Verstappen saying he's still in this title fight for the Drivers' Championship. When you look at those numbers, you think, well, it is Max Verstappen, and we've ruled him out before, and to our detriment, have we?
Yeah, I mean, if the race finishes in the same order as it is now, he'll get 24 points, Lando will get 6. The gap between them will be 44 by my quick math, and Lando will still be 25 behind Oscar. So, you know, it's 69 points to Oscar. So, yeah, it's a decent gap, but closing in.
Closing in, exactly that, Bernie. Have we got a Bernie?
Have you got me?
I've got you, Bernie. How are you?
So yes, just to pick up on what Corinne was saying there, Norris did derail heavily into turn 1, so that was the battery trying to regain some vital energy. So I'll watch his speed trace through this lap, but I think he is trying to get that battery up to speed to have a go in these final few laps.
Running out of time to do it, though, is Lando Norris. Every point will count in this 2025 championship battle with 3 Grand Prix to go and 3 sprints left to run in this season. Martin Garrix waiting with the flag with his good friend Max Verstappen, who he will wave it for in just a lap or so's time. Can any of these runners here battling for 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th make any kind of move? Charles Leclerc is the Ferrari in the distance, just a bit out of this one. Can Yuki Tsunoda try and dive down late on the brakes? But Tsunoda will have in the back of his mind, desperate to score a decent result, desperate to take some big points home for Red Bull and for himself. He's currently the lowest scoring full-time driver in the standings. 6th place will help him bag crucial 8 points in his account for this season. We get into that middle part once again through to the old town. No moves to be done.
Yeah, we're going to get one big opportunity, isn't it? You know, Verstappen now about to come past the start-finish line and begin the final lap of the Grand Prix. So this phase of the lap, where they've got to try and get close, they've got to get the battery in the right place, they've got the light flashing. That means they're harvesting, they're recovering energy, trying to top the battery up, because they all realize you've got to dump as much as you can on this run coming out of 16. Get the traction, make sure you launch yourself onto the straight. Verstappen, meanwhile, up at turn 2, comfortably, serenely on his way with a comfortable 14-second gap. And he's just done a new fastest lap for good measure. But I want to see the battle behind Lawson, because they're on their run to turn 1 at this point.
They breeze past our commentary box. We get the look now. Tsunoda, much more defensive coming into turn 1 this time around. Lando Norris saving the battery. Last lap around with just a few more corners to do it. You can see that McLaren so much more aggressive this time around. He knows he's running out of time. He's running out of corners. Lawson's managed to get away a little bit now from Tsunoda, who's nearly outside of DRS range. Crucially not. Can Lando pull alongside? No, he can't.
Oh, that's tough now. This is going to be, you're going to need a mistake from the car in front, but no mistakes for this man. He is being absolutely imperious all day long. It's a sort of vintage 2023, Harry, isn't it? We just a day where you don't see Max Verstappen and he's just dominating.
Yeah, the usual Friday chat from Red Bull where you almost want to rule them out, but with just a few kilometers left to run, over 51 laps around these Baku city streets, it is Max Verstappen once more who shows his might, who shows his class and rises to the top again. The checkered flag is waiting for Max Verstappen, who wins the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in style as the Red Bull pit will celebrate. It's another win for Laurent Mekies' team principal, and what a ride as well for George Russell, unwell all weekend long, takes home second. And how about this? A wry smile from the team principal of Williams. Carlos Sainz takes the final step on the podium in third. And his best result for his new team. And there is no change in this battle behind. Liam Lawson will be 5th behind Kimi Antonelli. Yuki Tsunoda crosses the line in 6th with Lando Norris in 7th. The 2 Ferraris 8th and 9th with Isaac Hadjar stealing the final points paying position in 10th place.
Well, it was a race where the drivers really, you know, it became a strategic battle, didn't it?
Another great drive, Max. Fabulous work, mate. Congrats.
Yes, what an unbelievable race, guys. On fire. Don't come fast. Really well executed. Really well done the whole weekend. Not incredible weekend for us. Well done to everyone involved.
Come back here.
2 in a row for Max Verstappen, and 2 in a row where
I feel Hamilton loves number 8.
These are races on Sunday, you know, I think in Monza, Hamilton didn't really have a chance to attack him. Carlos Sainz, winning driver of the day, and a great result for him and Williams.
Yeah, you voted, and the Salesforce driver of the day goes to Carlos Sainz, who picks up his first podium for Williams, who had to make the move.
Super job. Super drive today, George.
Yeah, good job. And not like considering the weekend. Good job.
Yeah, it's been a tough weekend for George Russell, who think we'll be quite pleased to see his old team up on the podium there with him. Carlos Sainz, who hasn't been on the podium since his final race for Ferrari last year, forced to leave the team he had gelled so well with for Lewis Hamilton's arrival, and it's been a tough year for Sainz, getting up to grips with his new surroundings, and Alex Albon has been flying, but here's the podium.
Vamos! Best podium in my career, guys. You cannot imagine how this pace is. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say, this is my first smooth operation in Williams. And not the last.
First and not the last, and that is brilliant for Williams in the Constructors' Championship, who now, well, they were in 5th anyway, they rather solidified that. They're 29 points clear now of Racing Bulls, who have also picked up good points this afternoon. But we had a few, moments where we had to wait and see what happened, but there was a lot of stories to tell inside the course of 51 laps around the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and Max Verstappen once again showing why he is the best in the world.
Yes, I'm sure he'll enjoy watching the highlights of the race afterwards in the cool-down room, because he would have had no idea what was happening behind. He was absolutely in a world of his own. They extended his stint, so he never fell into traffic, never got behind anyone else, and just utterly dominated the Grand Prix. Started with qualifying, of course. A weekend we thought 5 drivers would be in the fight for pole. One of them stood absolutely head and shoulders above the rest and delivered that pole position lap by some margin, and that set him up for today.
Win, pole, fastest lap, led every lap. Another Grand Slam for Verstappen, his 6th of his Formula 1 career, ties with Lewis Hamilton for 2nd on the all-time list, only behind Jim Clark. Celebrating there with the team, and that fastest lap in the race on lap 50. But his best smooth operation for Carlos Sainz, and he has not scored points of any kind, has Carlos Sainz, since Canada 7 races ago. That's rocketed him up into 12th in the Drivers' Championship. A much-needed day for the Spaniard.
And ahead of both Ferraris, which would be a nice little side note for him. So, yeah, Carlos, it's nice to hear him say it's been the best podium of his career. There he is, off to celebrate with the mechanics.
Wow. That's worth more than a win for Carlos Sainz and Williams. A return to the podium. They've been improving throughout the course of the last couple of years. They made a huge jump at the start of this year. They came into this race sitting with 86 points on the board. They've only scored 84 in the previous 7 seasons combined, have Williams. And now they sit with over 100 points in the Constructors. It's not where they want to be just yet. They want more. They want to be higher. But this is a great baseline for them. And George Russell as well to finish in 2nd. Another podium on the board. Even feeling ill all weekend, just highlighting what a great season George Russell is having, putting more pressure on those management and contract talks for next year. As Lewis Hamilton 8th, Charles Leclerc 9th. Did Ferrari over-deliver today?
They got stuck. I think the DRS train caught people by surprise. This morning we spoke to several team members, how are you doing? And they were all saying that actually overtaking should be quite good around here with the headwind and the DRS. There should be, lots of opportunities. But as it transpired, we saw people getting stuck behind Racing Bulls, or we saw, towards the end as well, just that train of cars.
Well, we'll see Isaac Hadjar walking away as well. We'll hear from our top 3. For those of you watching on Sky Sports main event, we're going to say goodbye to you shortly as you'll head over to Super Sunday, which continues. We're going to send you to Sunderland against Aston Villa soon. If you want to stay with us for the conclusion and all the analysis from what we've seen unfold here in Azerbaijan, you can stay with us or head over to Sky Sports F1. A much needed lug nut, I think, from Carlos Sainz. He worked hard there, and that's why Williams, they signed him for that racing brain and that strategic brain as well. Really nicely managed race from Carlos Sainz there to finish in third. But we can hear from our top three, they're talking to James Hinch.
Carlos Sainz, a brilliant qualifying lap yesterday, set you up for a podium finish today. Your first for Williams. You said on the radio on the way in, best moment of your career. Just tell us what this moment means to you.
Yeah. Honestly, I cannot describe how happy I am, how good this feels. Tastes even better than my first ever podium that I did. We've been fighting hard all year, and finally today we just proved that we have the speed. We've had it all year, and everything comes together. We can do some amazing things together. And today we nailed the race, not one mistake, and we managed to beat a lot of cars that yesterday I wasn't expecting to beat.
We talked a little bit earlier in the week about how you've had pace at a lot of the races in the last few. It's just been a failure to convert for a various amount of reasons. How proud are you of yourself on track and the team, of course, for their ability to convert from a strategy standpoint today?
Yeah, I'm extremely proud of everyone at Williams for pushing through a very difficult year. I think we've proven to everyone the massive step that we took compared to last year. We are on the rise, we are in the right direction. Unfortunately with me, we've had a lot of bad luck, a lot of incidents, very difficult to convert all that pace into results. But it all, now I understand why it all happened, because the first podium needed to come like this. And it's just life, life just sometimes brings you those bad moments to give you a very nice one, and this tastes much better than any other thing that I was expecting. So just life lesson, to keep believing, keep trusting yourselves, your team around you, your procedures, everything that you're doing, because sooner or later it always pays off.
Go enjoy it with your team.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
P2 for George Russell today. You said before the race that a podium was a possibility. And you had incredible pace on those hards. We even heard you preempt a message from the pit wall to extend that stint. Was that the key today to get ahead of Carlos?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, congrats to Carlos and Williams. Amazing result for them. I think for us, really happy to be back on the podium. It's been a bit of a rough weekend for me personally. The car was great. He came in P4 as well, so happy with that.
You talked about a rough week for you personally, a bit under the weather. So how tough was it to sort of focus, and how are you feeling after 51 laps?
Yeah, I was pretty bad when I was checking flags. I was fortunate I felt better today than I felt on Friday and Saturday. So looking forward to a bit of rest now. But as I said, just happy with the results. And for us as a team, trying to beat Ferrari in the constructors was a good step towards that.
Absolutely. Congratulations. Go get some rest.
Now saying goodbye to our viewers on Sky Sports main event. You can follow all the action still on Sky Sports F1.
Max, 67th win of your career, second in a row. That looked like Max 2023, as straightforward as it gets. Did it feel that easy from inside the car?
They're all a bit different, but I think this weekend has been incredible for us. Of course, last weekend was a great win. For us to win here again, it's just fantastic. And also the race, the car was working really well. On board the compounds, we had clean air all the time, and you could then look after your tires. Yeah, it was pretty straightforward. Of course, it's not easy running here, very windy today, so the car is always moving around a lot. But yeah, of course, incredibly happy with this performance.
After the conditions you saw yesterday and all the problems in qualifying, you mentioned the win, similar conditions today. How surprised were you that there wasn't more incidents? They didn't have more safety cars or even a red flag. Is that the drivers just learning from yesterday, or was it maybe not as hard today?
I think in the race always have to be a little bit more careful, right? Also with tire management and stuff, you want to make the one-stop work. So I think everyone was a bit more cautious with that anyway. Plus, of course, the compounds that we're running today, medium and hard, they weren't really used that much up until today. But that all helped. And yeah, for sure. I was happy that there were not too many safety cars.
Max, two wins on the trot. This Red Bull car seems to have really taken a step forward the last few weeks. Are you confident that this sort of pace, this sort of relative competitiveness can continue all the way to the end of the season?
Difficult to say at the moment, but for sure the last two race weekends have been amazing for us. Singapore, completely different challenge again with the high downforce. So we'll see what we can do there.
All right, well, best of luck. Congratulations on the win.
Max Verstappen then, and George Russell with Carlos Sainz your top three drivers at the end of 51 laps around Baku. Just outside the top three. I think a good word for Kimi Antonelli, finishing fourth. Strong weekend, good points picked up for the Mercedes.
Yeah, he'll be pleased with that. I think the way the strategy played out, Mercedes split the strategy, allowed Russell to effectively overcome him, so he came out as the lead Mercedes. By the way, in the Inter-Ferrari battle, I think Lewis Hamilton tried to slow down to reverse the team order from earlier, give the place to Charles Leclerc, but didn't quite slow down enough. I noticed when they came across the line, he backed off. But I think he got to the line slightly quicker than he planned to, and ended up crossing 4 tenths ahead.
Well, let's hear from the drivers. Heading inside the countdown.
I think everyone's quite careful. No. Just. These years happens more than when you love this. Do you guys actually work?
25 पॉइंट है ना अभी भाई ये नॉरिस के ऊपर आ जाएगा ऐसा चलता रहेगा यार तो रियल कंपटीशन इज पियास्ट्री और वर्स्टैपेन का एवरेज टाइम पे
Every time I come on the screen, I go, it's yellow, and I realize it was You guys must have had a stop. Yeah, I get you like that. They were not too dissimilar. I really feel like you pushed on it as soon as you like.
Power it off.
The entry, no, like with the brake.
You've got a new mascot on the back of your helmet,
The unicorn. Funds and there's this. I wear it this weekend. Maybe you can't take it off now.
You have to keep throwing it.
And cue the selfie from team principal James Vowles. Always a pleasure to hear from the top three, and good to see Alex Albon there as well. Didn't work out for him today, but supporting his teammates. Albon has been collecting all the points, but it's signs that Nick's the first podium.
Yeah, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, isn't it? But, you know, they've got a really good team atmosphere building at Williams, and they're making such good progress. If you look at where they ended 2 years ago to last season to this year, they're on this journey, but it's very much going in the right direction.
It absolutely is, with James Vowles at the helm, his future there secured as well in a long-term deal. As we get the podium ceremonies underway, Carlos Sainz takes Williams' first podium in a full duration race since 2017, where it was Lance Stroll who stood in that position. But it's Carlos Sainz now. George Russell, of course, he took a podium for Williams in that Belgian race a couple of years ago.
Let's go!
His old team standing up alongside him. Russell, who has fought against illness this weekend to
Max Verstappen, let's go!
Mercedes in their fight for second in the Constructors' Championship. But no one could match Max. And here will be the national anthem.
जनगण मन बजेगा कैसे भी Oh, grandma. मैक्स की ग्रैंडमा भी आई है ना इस बार रेस देखने. शी वाज क्राइंग, लेजिट क्राइंग. शी हैड टीयर्स इन हर आईज. एंड व्हाट अ ट्रॉफी डूड, व्हाट अ ट्रॉफी. मैक्स इज इमोशनल. ओ भाई डैम.
The Dutch national anthem for the winning driver Max Verstappen and the Austrian national anthem for the winning team, Red Bull Racing. As he receives his trophy and raises it high. Max is back, Red Bull resurgence.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to see Paul Monaghan on the podium there to receive the trophy for the Red Bull Racing team. Max receiving his medal from the FIA before that. Paul Monaghan was saying to me in the pit lane, actually, you know, we're finding our way, we're finding our direction, and he's been at Red Bull obviously a very, very long time, and yeah, nice to see. He's quite a character, Paul Monaghan, and nice to see him up on the podium.
Certainly is. Smiles all round from Red Bull then, and I think it will be a well-deserved
Let's go, guys, let's go.
in the interim period between now and Singapore for George Russell, but for his efforts this weekend, rewarded with second place. And I wonder if we might just get the loudest cheer from down at Parc Vermeil in particular for Williams and Carlos Sainz and his first podium with the team. And so good to see them all celebrating this. And a comeback for Sainz and Williams as the celebrations carry on. The champagne is sprayed here in Baku. It's a resurgent Max and Red Bull. The midfield pack intensifies. No points for our championship leader Piastri, while Norris only gained a few. There's a lot to discuss, there's a lot to talk about, and we go racing in just a couple of weeks' time. It's Singapore next. I can't wait.
Chalo guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for joining. Hope you guys have a lovely weekend. I'll see you guys tomorrow. What a lovely race. What a lovely race to watch. As obviously our favorite Max won. And what a lovely podium. Saw him get emotional seeing his grandma there. Absolutely insane. Also a great weekend for Carlos and Williams. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you guys have a lovely rest of the weekend. I'll see you guys tomorrow, maybe with some GTA. So, bye-bye. Have a lovely weekend.